Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Hopefully, the US Supreme Court decides to uphold the ban for gender affirming care in the US for Tennessee. And I hope the Supreme Court also goes a step further and bans this gender affirming care nonsense for the likes of every single state in America because it is truly absurd. What we're doing to young kids is horrific. It's barbaric. And I hope to God that we actually look back on all of this and not only do we blush, but we are utterly horrified at what took place. All these lies and these butchers need to go to prison for life for doing the kind of things that they're actually doing to the likes of young kids. And even the mainstream media, which is what we're going to be looking at today, how they played an enormous part in pushing this lie to so many people. How can a young kid consent to chopping off a healthy body part or even going on puberty blockers or even cross-sex hormones? Simple answer is they can't. But the mainstream media and a lot of ideological and dingbats like this particular person that you're about to hear from, Moira Donegan, would love you to believe that it's all a political matter. It's all being politicized, and it shouldn't have been politicized. I can agree with you on that. It should never have happened in the first place. But Moira Donegan is from The Guardian, a very left-leaning news publication. And, well, Moira's article is, how did transgender children in the US become so politicized? The US Supreme Court is likely to uphold a flimsy and bad faith Tennessee law banning gender affirming care for minors. Now, if you're like me and you're looking at this going, bad faith, huh? So it's bad faith to stop children from being castrated and mutilated and butchered, is it? Is it Moira? Oh, okay. It must be bad faith then. If that makes me bad faith, then count me in. I'm bad faith, damn it. The politicization of transgender children in the US is one of the most astounding coups of propaganda and organized animus in recent history. Gee, you love that sentence. Rarely has so much attention and rage been directed at such a minuscule number of people. And more rarely, still, have those people been the most vulnerable and blameless amongst us kids and teens. The most vulnerable, yeah, we can agree on that, and blameless. Blameless, if they're kids, it's not their fault. It's the parents, right? So I'm not totally in disagreement with the language there, but you saying the minuscule number of people that also happen to be the loudest, yeah, there's that too. You didn't consider that. The first state to pass a ban on transition-related care for minors was Arkansas in April 2021. Good. Less than 4 years later, more than half of states have such a ban on the books. Thank God for that. In 2016, North Carolina lost an estimated $3.75 billion in revenue following boycotts after they passed a law banning trans people, including transgender students, from using appropriate restrooms in public facilities. Now 14 states have such bathroom bans on the books, and the boycotts have receded. So they've lost $3.75 billion in revenue. You're saying the quiet part out loud. It's all about revenue. We've lost money because we can't have transgender people. It's all about money, people. Follow the money. These changes in public attitudes towards trans youth, there's no such thing as a trans child, just saying, or even a trans youth, from a broad, if imperfect sentiment of tolerance to a widespread and politically weaponized attitude of hostility towards a small minority of kids did not emerge by accident. It was the product of a deliberate, conscious effort to radicalize large swaths of the United States and significant chunks of state policy into hostility towards a few children. You love the language of The Guardian and Moira, don't you? You can tell that she's very happy. I think it's a she, by the way. Could be a dude. I don't know. You don't know these days, especially with just the name, because they can change the name and the way they look. It's just It's interesting. That effort seems to set to bear. That effort seems to set to bear. That effort seems to set to bear fruit now. Well, Moira, you got to fix up your language a little bit. But anyway, at the U.S. Supreme Court in U.S. versus Scrimeti, a lawsuit brought by the ACLU and the Biden Department of Justice challenging Tennessee's HB1, a sweeping ban on transition-related care for minors that was passed in 2023. The law prohibits any puberty blockers or hormones from being prescribed for the purposes of gender transition, but it does not prohibit these medications from being prescribed for non-transition-related purposes. A minor can be prescribed puberty blockers, for instance, if their doctor believes they are experiencing early onset or precocious puberty. Precocious. They cannot be prescribed puberty blockers to delay the onset of a puberty that may change their bodies in ways they do not desire for gender identity-related reasons. Well, you're not going to be able to pick up where you left off. It doesn't work that way with puberty blockers, man. So one way or another, whether or not it's for identity reasons or early onset puberty, you're stopping a child from going through something that's healthy. That means, too, that a child assigned, no, nobody is assigned. Stop with the language, Moira. I hate this sort of language. Could access, say, testosterone treatment, but a child assigned, not assigned, the female could not, in oral arguments on Wednesday, Solicitor General Elizabeth Freiliger and Chase Strangio, Chase Strangio, by the way, is a transgender man, a biological woman of the ACLU, who happens to also be a lawyer, the first trans attorney to argue before the Supreme Court, explained that this was a straightforward case of sex discrimination. It ain't, but anyway, and hence needed to be subjected to a heightened standard of judicial review under the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. It will not be. A majority of the court's conservatives seemed poised to uphold the ban on transgender health care, though for a variety of different reasons, Brett Kavanaugh made his usual mealy mouth paean. Goodness me, this language is crazy. To states' rights, an argument he always makes in questions of federally guaranteed equality provisions, but not before extolling the hypothetical suffering of teenagers who may access gender-affirming care but then later come to regret it. One wonders if there are any choices from his own adolescence that Brett Kavanaugh has come to regret. Clarence Thomas and Chief Justice John Roberts, meanwhile, both advance the idea that these physiological differences between male and female bodies could moot the Equal Protection Clause reach, giving states broad leeway to regulate medicine in ways that would uphold gender hierarchy. For this part, Samuel Alito also seemed interested in the idea that states might have a right to affect gender discrimination via their regulation of medicine. He repeatedly cited the 1974 case, Gerald Digg versus Alio, in which the Supreme Court ruled that states could discriminate on the basis of pregnancy, and that pregnancy discrimination was not sex discrimination, because even though only female people became pregnant, not all female people, oh boy, not all of them are pregnant all of the time. At the time, Congress found the outcome of Gerald Diggs so egregious that it passed a law clarifying that pregnancy discrimination does count as sex discrimination for the purposes of federal civil rights law, and the precedent was largely mooted, but Alito's controlling opinion in Dobbs has revived it. But Alito, true to form, did not confine his opinioning to the notion that discrimination against trans people does not count as sex-based discrimination. He went on to suggest that trans people are not quite real, peppering Strangio in a scene that seemed intended to humiliate the trans attorney with questions about whether trans identity was truly an immutable characteristic. For this part, Strangio responded with a dignity and and respect that Alito's line of questioning did not merit. Right, okay. Oh boy, oh boy. To finish this off, okay, because this has been a painful article to read. But anyway, Tennessee claimed, after all, that the law did not discriminate on the basis of patient sex, but rather on the basis of the purpose of their treatment, when the liberal justices pointed out that this was a distinction without a difference because the purpose of the treatment was dependent on the patient's sex. Rice simply repeated his assertion that there was a difference there. Somehow, Jackson in particular worked to get Rice to explain his position for some time. He declined to. You know what? I can't believe that we're actually debating this. I really can't. And you've got lawyers that are using fandangle language to try and make them sound smart. But really, it just comes down to something that is so fundamentally simple. There ain't anything to do with, like, mate, I can't believe it. There's nothing that grinds my gears more than going against, so far against science, and something that is so basic, but we're kowtowing to a person's individual feelings, and we're saying your feelings matter more than protecting kids. Are you mad? Are you mental? And we're saying that there is such a thing as transgender healthcare, or, you know, trans people do exist. No, people exist. We get that. But this whole idea that you can be something you're actually not. No, stop it. Anyway, this is going to give me a major headache. But before it does, I'll leave it at that. We'll just wait to see what the Supreme Court does, okay? But the mainstream media, you can't hate them nearly far enough as you do, which is a lot for me. But anyway, you guys take care. You be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.